Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Spill the Beans. Today I'm sitting down with my buddy Zach Jordan, who owns RIGWA Bowls. He started this business a few months before COVID. That's a manufacturing business, has a lot of cool stuff going on. They've been bootstrapped and building this thing just on their own dollars and trying to figure it out, and he's done an amazing job at it. I'm super excited about what he's done and the growth that they've had over the past 3 years and the trajectory that they're on over the next 24 months and what they're going to achieve. So sitting down with him, wait until you hear about his manufacturing and sourcing things overseas and the process that goes with creating an actual product and bringing it to the market. Let's go check it out. Zach, what's up, man?
What's up?
Appreciate you being here, dude.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. So we got introduced through some mutual friends, Q and Gunner, and both of our wives work out with Gunner, and we've both worked with Q on the marketing side of things before. So she told me about your business, and actually I just bought Gunner's his VIP package, and you guys put some of your products in there. I was like, dude, this is cool stuff. You know, I'd love to get connected with him and just talk about his entrepreneurial journey. So I appreciate you sitting down, man. I'm excited to hear a little bit about your backstory. Let's start with that, and then let's dive into how you actually launched RIGWA and the bowls and the product line, because it's a fascinating time to launch a product based on you doing that right in 2019, 2020. So what did the journey look like in your career, and what did it look like for you to become an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I think it's like where to start, and that's a great question. But I mean, before RIGWA, which is the name of our company, which comes from our kids' middle initials, before that I was with a large recruiting firm for 17 years. So right out of college, got into that, and started off as a recruiter, got into sales, took on different roles there, and then ultimately leadership. But through that experience, that company was structured in a way that gave me the opportunity to take on some entrepreneurial type roles. I mean, it was very much an entrepreneurship spirited company.
At least you had autonomy inside of that.
A tremendous amount. I was able to really kind of build my own little business, and I got addicted to that. I mean, I just loved taking something that didn't exist and seeing how to put all the right pieces in place, and seeing how a tremendous amount of hard work and commitment to it could make it thrive.
Why do you think more people don't see that opportunity or take advantage of that opportunity? You know, some people just want to go and punch the clock. Do you think, what have you found as a differentiator in entrepreneurs versus employees?
I think one of the easy answers is just the hard work and the dedication. But for me, that comes from having a genuine passion to do something. So when it's yours, when you've created something, you tend to have that passion for it.
You care more about it,
Yeah, you'll do whatever it takes to not let it fail. If you're punching the clock, to use your term, or working for a different company, I don't know that there's that level of ownership and passion that you have in entrepreneurship. So for me, it all comes back to passion. It comes back to something I truly, genuinely love to do. But yeah, I mean, that's a big difference. And but for me, we work around the clock. It was up till 1 o'clock last night talking to people overseas, and you wake up this morning at 5 and you have 20 things you have to get done.
You got to be a little bit off the spectrum in order to you know what I mean? We're probably more psycho than people give us credit for, but and you're like, why would I leave hey, let me leave my 40-hour work week job in order to go and work 80 hours a week on my business, you know what I mean? But you have that autonomy, and it shows you what value you bring to the market.
Sure.
That to me is I don't want somebody else to dictate what my worth is. I want to be able to dictate my worth personally, and again have that decision-making ability. So you're in that industry for 17 years. And you left that in what, 2018, 19?
At the very end of 2019, the company was going through a big restructure, and so Jarek is my wife, we came up with RIGWA with a concept in 2017. We're doing a taco night.
And what is it? Explain what that is.
So I should have brought one. Now I'm using a water bottle, but
Yeah, we'll put some pictures in.
Yeah, just like your favorite water bottle or coffee mug that'll keep drinks hot or cold for hours. This is an insulated stainless steel bowl that'll keep food hot or cold for hours. So it just gives a ton of potential, endless options for taking fresh food wherever you go, right? We always say from kitchen to adventure, whatever that looks like. And the company's evolving and growing. It started with a bowl, and now we've got different rectangular containers and a whole bunch of different
so you have
different
cups.
accessory products.
We
don't have cups. We just do just food right now. Bowls.
So it's just food. So, because I mean, somebody's like, well, you know, Yeti has cups, right? Yeti has this stuff.
Yeah.
But like, when you guys thought, hey, you know, there's nothing. Are there things in the market that has the bowls, that has the food containers also? And I would think, if there's not, like Yeti would be coming out with something that would be very competitive in that side, and that would probably deter a lot of people from getting into a business like that. Like, like what was it where you thought, hey, I think there's actually some you know, substance here and something that we can. It's got some grit to it.
Yeah, my mind goes in like 20 different directions, right? Like the entrepreneurial mind just like takes off and like how to answer that or. There's always a competitive landscape. I think with any good idea,
I agree.
like, there's always going to be a competitive landscape that has to be addressed and contended with. But for us in 2017, when the queso kept getting cold, and we were like, God, why don't they make something like this for food? Which was Jerica's question to me at dinner, and my mind just like almost exploded. I'm like, there has to be. There have to be 10, 20 different products out there that we can. Yeah. So we went to go buy them. Like we wanted to go buy 5 or 10 to use. And as over dinner, as we started talking about it, like, man, we would take it to the beach. We would take it on the boat with friends. We would take it for kids' sporting games in between. And like the list just kept going and going and going. And so when we searched and we didn't find anything on the market, I mean, for weeks searching, right? Like Amazon, Google, you name it, we searched.
Other than taking like an actual cup, an insulated cup, and putting food in that, right?
Or like a food jar.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, those thermos containers have been out, but they're really hard. I mean, they're like, our kids used to eat out of them and they're like, you know, contorting their body just to get their last spoon out, right? So we're like, there's got to be something that's a little bit more versatile. So we said, let's design it. And so for my previous job in recruiting, I knew some engineers. We went down, let's just take a stab and see what we can create. That was all about creating. That was all about concept. Like, can we actually make something that would look cool that we would want to buy?
So what did that process look like, dude? Because there's a lot, it's probably real estate heavy, but there's still a lot of other entrepreneurs who watch this and maybe passively invest in real estate, or they watch it for some business development stuff. But like, dude, I have zero background in the manufacturing side. So
as did we.
Talk to me like I'm a third grader on what did that process look like? So you talked to some engineers, and you said, hey, here's the concept.
Like, how do we, like, let's just put our thoughts on paper, right? Like, we started literally with pencil and paper, drawing it out. What would this look like? How big would it be? How would we want to hold it? How would we want it to feel? And then that evolved into, okay, well, let's see if we can make this manufacturable, right? Like, this looks great on paper, but how can we put it into a production facility that can actually make this?
So did you have to pay engineers to help you design it?
We did.
Is that a big expense?
That was a small
expense?
I mean, compared to
thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars, hundreds of dollars? Okay. So that's a good, because in my mind, I talk to engineers and it's tens of thousands of dollars to go and do a development.
It can be
project,
for sure,
right? To do like real estate development. So it's good to understand what that barrier to entry is or isn't in certain things. So you can at least get something to work with for under $1,000.
Yeah, you can get some drawings.
All right. That gets us started. All right, get some conversations moving.
Can fuel the passion a little bit.
Yeah.
But that was, I mean, there's a whole roadmap of, misses and strikes and, being knocked down that we had. That was our first one. We designed it to be a rectangular container that would be vacuum insulated, which vacuum insulated on like all these cups and mugs.
Yeah.
They suck all the air out, and that's what keeps it from losing its temperature. That's what allows you to hold it.
In the vacuum can't get hot or cold, so it doesn't get affected by whatever the outside temperature is.
So you can hold your hot coffee in one of those without burning your hand, right?
Got it.
If it was a single layer of stainless steel, you wouldn't do it. So that vacuum process is really important, but what we learned is when they vacuum that out, the rectangular product just caves in. Oh. So we immediately were like, oh, this concept, this idea that we had created isn't going to work.
Yeah.
And
so it has to be circular in shape.
It does, yeah. We're starting to figure out how to do it differently. Like we've got some rectangular stuff coming, but yeah, that in theory when we started, so we went to round, and then we just kept working through some revisions. And to go back to your other question, that's when we started doing a search for, all right, we have this idea on paper. How do we actually get it produced now?
Yeah.
Right? It's that was a really tough search. We looked in the U.S. We were really committed at first to saying, hey, we're gonna do this in the U.S.
It's America made, you know.
Yeah, we found some, long story short, we found some veterans in San Diego that were doing a man mug that was vacuum insulated. We asked them if they'd bring our product online. They're really interested, but like, hey, we don't have the capacity. We're working through our own challenges. 9 months later, followed back up to see if we could get it because we were starting to produce, and they're out of business. Like
Wow.
it just, so we get a lot of people that do say, hey, it's not made in America, not interested. And like, all right, well, don't know what to tell you. That's a conversation over a beer, not coffee. But but we went from there. We actually, after weeks, probably a month or two of searching, we found an American that lived in China that was married to a Chinese woman, and he was just amazing. Like being able to have that communication, like for our first product, and really be able to break down all the different steps of the process to get it shipped over was a lifesaver. I think if we had not found him, I don't know that we'd be here today. Like that was a really strategic find for us.
Yeah, that's cool. There's like certain points in the process or in the timeline that are like that was a key person to either get out of business with or get into business with, like all the time. So, all right, so you asked around, right? You start asking. I think a lot of people are like, I don't even know where to start. Well, are you asking? You know what I mean? Are you asking if anybody has contacts in China for manufacturing? I think just by putting it out there, all of a sudden answers start coming, and you're gonna have to sift through the bad answers and lean into the good ones. But you found this guy in China who he had familiarity with China manufacturing goods and then moving them over to the United States.
Yeah, and more importantly for us, like he had the experience, but the communication. I mean, he was able to really walk us through the process. And what I know now that I didn't know then is as a really small startup company, there aren't a lot of companies production facilities that want to take on something new.
Right.
Like people, I mean,
Makes
just
sense.
at a lot of different areas of the business, and I think that transcends more than just production.
Yeah.
Right, but people are a little reluctant, right, to be the leading side of things. So we started really small and we built it up, and as our production has increased, as we've been growing, companies come. I get 5 emails a week, right, of hey, we hear you're producing this. We've got the capacity to bring you guys in. So now we can really pick and choose and source it much more effectively. We can try and drive our price down. We can look for the best communication. We can look for the best processes, the best QA. We can ask them what other bottles, that they're making there, so we can align ourselves with top quality, bottles and coffee mugs that are out there right now, which we've started to do, which is great because now we just see our quality of product improve tenfold. Yeah. So it's a really interesting process, but man, those first like 2-3 years of grinding through these really small factories to try and figure it out, like.
So what do you go to the factory with? You give them some drawings and say, can you manufacture this? And then they tell you, hey, yes, we have the equipment to do this, or we don't have the equipment to do this, or it's going to cost this much to get the equipment to do this.
Yeah, pretty much. Okay. So I mean, you have to. The biggest expense is tooling, right? For a product like ours, like you have to tool these massive, like, stainless steel or like tool and die things that stamp all the metal out. Like that's the expensive part because you have to design that, and it's expensive. So like for one product, you might see it be $5 grand, or you might see it 30 grand.
Really?
So as a small company, when we're all self-funded, right? We've bootstrapped it from the beginning. Like every dollar counts. So when you're trying to do multiple products, multiple sizes, and there's a $30,000 tooling charge, and then you have production on top of that, right? So you start working your cash flow model out. Like, all right, well, how many do we need to produce over what period of time? What do our sales need to look like? To where we're in the green. And
did you have background in that forecasting, the financial forecasting, or did you bring somebody in to help out with that, or you just kind of like grab a spreadsheet and you try to like play with it on your own, or like how did you? Were you off? Were you on? Like what did that look like?
Like that is, I think just in business in general, especially entrepreneurship, knowing your strengths is important. Knowing your weaknesses equally is important, right? Being able to align yourself to people that can fill in your weaknesses, like that's just not an area of strength for me. I mean, at a very basic level, we were running some spreadsheets and looking at the numbers on a very surface, topical level. we also didn't know we didn't know. We started this company at the very end of 2019. 3 months later, COVID hit.
Yeah.
So as an example, like where the
man.
finances start to take a hit, the first shipment we sent over, the container, you know, those boxes you see on the truck, it was $2,200 for a 40-foot container full of product coming over. Less than a year later, our second container coming over, same size, a little bit more volume, but all in one container, was 22,000. So literally a 10x. So when you start, when I, at my, my simple mind and the way it works with finances, like that just throws a wrench in.
Dude, big time.
That just messed up so many of my calculations and
I
forecasts.
didn't
And
really plan
what's
on
our
that.
cost per unit? And then,
Yeah.
but everything has been increasing. It's not just that. Like that was kind of the first of many areas to drop, in terms of like price increases.
So how do you manage inventory, right? Like how do you know how much you're going to sell? How do you know how much you're going to order based on the sales side of things? Is there softwares that track that kind of stuff? How are you projecting that out?
Yeah, it's a good tie into a lot. So I guess to finish off the last point, it ties in well to that. Like that is a weakness of mine. Like that's not a strength for Jericho or I. So we went out and like worked with people. One of our really good friends in our neighborhood is an expert, right? Like former Wall Street finance guy. He's just a guru. Like he looks at the spreadsheets and the numbers, and it's like me saying the ABCs, right? It's just like so easy for him. So he took it and like, so thankful for, he spent so much time doing this on the side and helped us like smooth out our books. And then that led into some, like you got to smooth out what you have, where you've been, where you are, and then you can start to have a little bit more accurate projections. So he was able to put us into that position where we could more accurately project. And that's where we got into, okay, well, how are our sales trending, right? What do they look like? What do they look like for the next 3 months, 6 months, 12 months? And then you start backing into your production orders. The challenge with COVID, and I don't, there are no excuses. Like it is what it is. COVID messed with so many people.
Yep.
We just had never done a consumer product before. We had never done anything overseas like this before. So bringing stuff in. So every step of the process was new to us, but it was also new to industry. Like everyone we were working with, they didn't know what to tell us. No one could really coach us. So it's like the blind leading the blind, right? And trying to do projections, and we missed. So we sold, like in regards to inventory, we sold out 3 times in the last 2 years, which I think if anyone had told us at the beginning, you're going to sell out 3 times, we would have been like, buying a private jet already. Like, that's awesome. Yeah. But what we learned, we just weren't, our supply chain was not sophisticated and tight enough to accommodate for everything that COVID threw at it.
Sure.
Just like Walmart and Target and the biggest of the big, but for us it had a major impact. So we were out of inventory, and all our baseline expenses continued to run the business. And no sales were coming in for instead of 1 week, it was for 3 months. Yeah. So just it's crushing. So you got to rebound from that, and that's happened 3 times. So now we're like, all right, screw it. Like, just get a lot of inventory. Yeah. And let's continue growing the way that we did. It's working, but we need enough inventory to battle through that.
So what is the manufacturing in China, they just create the product and they ship it here, you package it here, or do they handle the packaging there too?
They do all the packaging.
So it comes here ready to go to a retailer?
Correct. Yep.
So what does your staff here look like? Do you have like a warehouse? Do you have a team? Do you have, like, what does that all look like? And do you have a sales team? Are you selling it mostly online? Are you in retail stores? What is that?
So
Let's transition more to the marketing and sales side, I guess.
Yeah. The team is really Jericho and myself in terms of what the RIGWA company looks like. It's just us, but we have, instead of internal employees, very strategic partners that help us with all these different areas of the business. So from social media and marketing, right? All the posts that go up, like I'll have friends that'll be like, "Hey, great post." I'm like, "I don't know what you're talking about," right? So they do a fantastic job with that, and then we've got someone that helps us with all the packaging design and like product marketing, logos, colors, all that kind of stuff.
Like third-party vendors that are like they're intimately familiar with your business. You do a lot of work with them, but you don't have the overhead of taking on more staff, and more employees, and more operating expenses by doing that. Right. So I like that. I think that's a great way, especially when you're bootstrapping a business and getting it off the ground, man, in order to not take on all that additional overhead. Because, dude, the biggest reason businesses go out of business is for lack of cash flow. Lack of cash flow, typically comes from having too many operating expenses. Number one operating expenses, staff. overhead, And so if you can reduce that and maybe even if you pay a premium to a consultant or somebody who's handling the marketing side of things, or you're a social media person, you might not be also, but even if you are, it's better than having an obligation of a salary to pay, I think.
I agree.
Especially like when you're getting up and rolling.
I think I agree with you, man. I think the key word there is like if you're bootstrapped, like if you're funding it yourself and you're not sitting on piles of cash to really go all in.
Yeah.
Like we know of other businesses locally that have had some amazing funding, and they do hire, right? They do those strategic hires internally right away, and we're always a little envious of that, right?
But man, I'm telling you, they burn through a lot of money. Like I'm developing a SaaS software right now, and the guy that I'm partnered with, like we're bootstrapping it with our own cash. Him and me, we're both putting money in, but he understands that side very, very well. He's like, and we've been able to get a minimum viable product for about $500,000 right now.
Oh, nice.
And he's like, dude, anybody else? And he worked for a big, large software engineering firm for, 25 years. He's like, this would cost $4 million in the marketplace because these big other tech companies just throw money at it.
Wow.
There's no efficiency. Like,
Right.
I think there's definitely creates, again, grit is one, but a sense of efficiency in the business and in the company culture when you're bootstrapping it. I think it's very healthy for businesses to be bootstrapped initially, and then once you, because there's frivolous spending otherwise in a lot of the people who just have big amounts of cash, and they think the cash is always going to solve it, and it softens the problems, but it doesn't solve the problems.
That's a great point. I agree.
And so, dude, I like that. I like the idea of bootstrapping businesses in order to get off the ground. And then there's probably a strategic point where now you take on investors, or now you infuse some more capital, or you go to the bank and you get a line of credit or something like that, where now, we got we're off the ground. Now let's give us a little bit more scale to it. But so what does it look like from a standpoint of your marketing and sales efforts right now? Like, what are you doing? Are you sticking to mostly e-commerce kind of stuff? Or have you made some retail connections? What does that look like?
Yeah, we started off predominantly like online, DTC, right? Direct to consumer through our website. We have a Shopify site, and it's been incredibly efficient. And like we've invested a lot of money in getting that going. So you're marketing to Google and Meta, right? Facebook and Instagram, and now TikTok.
Like Facebook ads. You're doing the actual ad spend on those different mediums. Gotcha.
Right. Now we outsource that to experts there, because it's like each one of those platforms has its own algorithm. Those algorithms are forever changing and shifting. So like
how has that worked for you guys, outsourcing that side of things? It sounds like pretty good.
Yeah, a buddy of mine from college has a company, and we're by far their smallest customer. They do like large scale company digital marketing efforts. So they've been a phenomenal partner for us.
I've had a lot of issues with third party on that. The reason I ask is I've had some issues where, again, you're like, hey, here's $18,000, and it's like they're not tracking it properly, or they're just kind of, and I get you got to test it and continuously split test and refine and see what works and what doesn't work and what makes people click and all that. But I haven't had a lot of success using third party, where we started just bringing it in-house about 6 months ago, and now that my internal team knows how to do it, we've had a lot more success. But it sounds like you found somebody who understands you, or at least trusts you, or you trust them.
Yeah, for sure. But I agree with you. I think people hear those ultra success stories that are out there, right? And all these companies that are coming to you, they all market the same thing. We have these 5 companies that we've given 8x to in the last 90 days. And you're like, oh, awesome, that sounds great. I'd love for you to do that for me, right? But then they dive into your business, and they look at all the data, and then 10 grand later, you're like, what the hell? So, and we've experienced that on a smaller scale on like single platforms, like just bringing someone in to do TikTok, or to do Amazon marketing, something like. So we've experienced that to an extent. But yeah, the group that we're with, a lot of trust, and they're very good at what they do. But the other thing I realized is like, and I think this is probably like just maybe a blanket statement across the business, but for me, it's all the puzzle pieces have to line up. So you can do all the right digital marketing, you can be dialed into all the algorithms, but if your website doesn't look great, if you don't have the right content, if you don't have the right product,
so many layers.
So all those puzzle pieces have to come together, and as you start getting more and more of the puzzle pieces to line up, then that one thing in digital marketing can be incredibly valuable.
Yep.
So we're still working through getting those puzzle pieces together, but digital marketing
it's a constant
is big.
thing, though,
Yeah,
right? Like
for
it's
sure.
like the market's always changing. The algorithms, like you mentioned, are always changing. You need to always be split testing. This ad with this ad. Okay, well, this one got more clicks. Let's lean into this one. Let's change the picture with the same title, right?
Right.
Or let's change the title with the same picture. Or like, and you keep on playing with it, and you figure out where the kinks are in that entire funnel. And it could be the website. It could be the processing, sales processor. It could be whatever it ends up being, and you're always tweaking that, and you're always trying to dial it in. I don't think that's anything that ever goes away fully, and you never have it like totally figured out.
I agree. I think that's why these companies are all in business and
Yeah,
and doing
exactly.
well. But so for me, if I think back to one of the first questions you asked, right? Like this is kind of like at a micro level something that from an entrepreneurial standpoint, like you either enjoy and are passionate about solving these problems and then like figuring it out, or you get so annoyed and frustrated by it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the one that's the individual that says, hey, I would love to work for a bigger company because I can just call in that team to handle this problem.
Yep.
The entrepreneur, I think, like for me, it sucks. And especially when you have the same issue that comes up, like, not every day, but like once a quarter, right? Or twice a year, you're like, God, this is back again.
Yeah.
All right, let's figure it out. Like, let's crack this code. Let's do it. So yeah, man, it's one of the pieces of the puzzle, but we're also doing a lot within retail. Our retail footprint's picking up. We're doing some things. I mean, as we speak, we just went to a big show in Atlanta, 100 new retail customers. So for us, in 1 week to have 100 new customers in just one region is great. But it's a puzzle piece.
And are those are retail stores? Those are
like retail stores.
who would carry your stuff? Gotcha.
So they'll carry like a package of our stuff, like a whole lineup, and they'll display it in their store. People sell it, and then they'll, obviously the more.
How does that usually work? Do they buy the product, or you front the product and then they pay you for it as it sells, or
they buy it?
So they buy it
And we
up
get
front
asked that
at a
lot.
wholesale price?
Yeah, at a wholesale price, and then they merch it, they sell it, they make their profit, and then they'll come back and reorder.
Right.
But we get asked that a lot. I mean, we have not had anyone say, like, hey, send us the product and then we'll pay you as we sell it.
Yep.
Like we just, I know that model's out there, but not with the retailers we're working with. But going back to the puzzle pieces, right? I mean, you have, if we get 100, 150, 200, 500 retail stores in the Southeast, then that looks a hell of a lot better for us to go to a Dick's Sporting Goods, right? Or not that Bed Bath & Beyond is on our target list, but someone of that caliber, like that size, they start, oh, you're in this many retail stores, the reorder process is working so well, this is an attractive product. And that's, I mean, on one hand, I would love to have gotten into one of those big players like really early on for them to see the value of the product, but they oftentimes don't until
they won't even look at you
until the masses are proving it.
Well, what are they going to do? They're going to put your product. Same reason the manufacturers. It's such a bottleneck to go to them because they want to be able to produce it at a mass level, make way more money versus some startup. And there's a setup cost to bring in a new product into one of these large retailers. And if it fails and they have to put it on a clearance rack, it makes them look bad because they obviously are showing that they aren't selling something.
For sure.
And it's is it on them? Maybe, but maybe it's the product that's not selling. And so they don't want to take on that risk until it's proven, but you guys are able to do that. I mean, 100 retailers, that's pretty cool. Have you looked at bringing on investors? Are you in a point where you don't need to do that anymore, or are you still thinking about doing that, or going on Shark Tank? I'm just thinking about stuff like that whenever I see retail products.
Yeah, I think we would love to be in a position where we could really go make a great pitch to various investors for like the right level of capital injection to get us to that next level.
Do you know what that looks like? Like meaning, hey, if I had $1 million, I could get us into these retailers, which would then produce this type of return on investment. Like, is there a specific target, and if you could produce this much or get the cost down to this much, it opens up new doors? Like, are there different levels and that you can reach that you already know in order to do that, or is it still kind of a little bit of gray area?
Yeah, I'd say it's. I'm sure there's a formula out there that would allow us to really dial into that, but we're not breaking it down like that right now.
Yeah.
Like we are we are laser focused on like quality products, as many sales as we can get with a blend of independent retailers, larger, mid-size and large retailers, and then driving our online algorithms up. I think we'll know when we get to that point, this is how much capital we need to get to the next level. But what we're hearing right now, like we're having conversations with larger retailers like a Costco, a Dick's of sorts, like these, you get into these larger conversations. And an order from a larger retailer of that magnitude would come with a certain amount of lead time that we would be able to establish funding, production, and dive into the numbers specifically for that company or specifically for that retailer. But
well,
we're not.
That's good to know. That it's not a chicken or egg kind of a thing. At least if you go and get the contract first, then you can go to the manufacturer, see what kind of pricing you can negotiate. Then you could reverse engineer it back into the capital raise, so that way somebody can infuse the cash.
Right.
And but it starts with going and getting the contract first.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, and honestly, I think the number one thing for us is smoothing out sales. Like now that we've built up our inventory to a great place. So being able to really smooth out our sales on that trajectory that we've previously been on multiple times, but to sustain that puts our numbers and our financials in a place that are much more attractive to the investors that we would want to partner with. But it also puts us in a better negotiating place.
Right.
Like if we went right now to do a raise, like we wouldn't have the best resume, if you will, the best financial resume to say, this is why we need this.
And they're going to say, give me 60% of the company, I'll give you money. And you're like, well, like all the risk, a lot of the risk, but they don't see the financials on that side. I mean, we go through it on the real estate side. We buy a lot of heavy value add type projects. And guess what, man? When you buy an apartment building, it's been run like shit, and you gotta infuse a bunch of capital, and you got to kick out the tenants who were never screened and aren't qualified, and then you have this high vacancy now that pops up. You got to renovate all those. You're outlaying a lot more cash than is actually coming in, and then finally you get it stabilized, which means it's 90% occupancy at market rate rents. And they look, hey, show me the past 12 months, and you're like, well, here's the story, but now it's good. They're going to look at it based on past performance instead of going forward. So like it's hard to go out and get the financing because you have to show that it is performing and it's stabilized and income and revenue is generating and continues to grow. But you need more timeline. So then it's like, well, I don't need the money 12 months from now because I'll have enough sales revenue coming in where I don't need to be. But like I need it now. But how do you come up with that valuation? So yeah, I mean, I think that's a key part. Are you looking, when you go to raise capital, if you ever go to raise capital, will it be more of just a money partner, or are you looking for more of a strategic partner who maybe has that, retail connection or has launched those kinds of products in the past?
Yeah, well, first of all, on your comment about the real estate, I think there's a ton of synergy. Like the way you frame that up, if you're looking at an apartment building, is the exact same thing we're looking at now, right? It's like where you've been, where you are now, and then where you're going. And only we have really good visibility into where it's going, right? I mean, we have the most, and we have to objectively look at that, right? And not like throw a bunch of, icing on it to make it look all great. I mean, we have to be realistic with where we are and what needs to improve. But what was the other question?
And then just like, are you looking for more of a strategic partner who can get you into more of those retailers? Or, I mean, there's people who go on like Shark Tank, for instance, who are fully capitalized and they're just looking to partner with a shark for the exposure and some of the introductions. And I think that relationship capital can be more valuable than financial capital, right? But I think a lot of people don't realize when they're going out and raising money, there's a return that needs to be paid if I'm just borrowing money, financial capital, and if I also want their intellectual capital or their relationship capital to come with it, there needs to be an additional return paid on that too. You know what I mean? For their connections or for their business coaching or for their, and for the money side of things. So it's like, whenever I think about going and raising capital, I'm like, well, does this person just write checks? Can they be a strategic partner in another way? Can they make introductions for me in another way? Like, do they have experience in this kind of an industry or not? And I think there's different types of investors and different types of strategic partners that you would bring on.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think for us, we would certainly want the relationship and the experience capital there, right? Like just I think we have a network personally of enough people that if we just needed money,
Right.
that we could go get just money and kind of figure that out. But I mean, I guess I'm saying that. I mean, maybe there's a number of money we would need where we don't have that relationship. But yeah, I think having the relationships and someone that help us navigate the space, like there's so much value to that. If I was a shark, you watch that show and you watch the amount of value they put on their relationship and their experience. I do the exact same thing because it's, I mean, it's almost, you know, it's hard to put a value, it's hard to put a dollar value on being able to pick up a phone call and get a product into a national store. Like that's ridiculous.
You can pick up the phone on this side. It's like, are they willing to answer it on that side? Though? You know, like that's the big.
Are they excited
I can make the call.
about it?
They can make the call, but will they answer it? You know, I know a lot of people, but do they know me? Well, you know, different story. And I think that's I think that's that would be the key. I think there's enough money out there. You guys have enough experience in the business, being around for over 3 years now. And have the sales revenue and where it wouldn't be difficult for you to go out and get the cash for the business to infuse into it. Really, the question mark becomes, what kind of opportunities does that set up for you in the being able to buy more, you know, at a lesser price point, and then at the same time, you know, reduce your cost of goods, and then really, I think the strategic partner is somebody who can bring in the relationship capital, get you into those stores, you know?
Yeah, that would be, I mean, I would imagine it's a similar situation on the real estate side too, right? Going in to buy an apartment complex. I mean, just getting the cash is one thing, but
who can operate it, you know? Who's going to be able to stabilize the asset, and there's a lot of other moving parts that is more than just getting the cash to buy it, you know? That's good, man. Well, what's the goal for the next 12 months, right? We're sitting down, filming this in January, right after the new year. I just got done with a lot of my goal setting stuff. Like, what does the next 12 to 36 months look like for you guys?
The next 12 months is flipping the cash flow. Like I mean, in the consumer product industry, I think we knew it going in, but we certainly overlooked to the extent of how expensive it is to grow. I mean, so if we had 10,000 units in, you know, easy math, 10,000 units in 2022, and we're growing, like we have to get up to, of that one product, to 20,000 units in 2023. But we're also introducing new products. So there's more tooling and more cost to grow. So that cost to grow is expensive. So being able to flip that cash flow, quite frankly, even if it's temporarily, because we are introducing a number of new products, would be a massive win for us to be able to say, man, we've flipped that. Our cash flow looks great. We're in a great
now
place
there's not a
to continue
burn
growth.
rate. Now you can self-sustain and launch new products and continue ordering the inventory that you need to order with the existing revenue that's coming in, without having to bring on investors. I mean, dude, that's a huge hurdle to get. Like,
it's huge.
Not as in difficult, but I'm like, that is a big threshold to cross in a good way. Of like, if you can meet that, man, you're gonna be in really, really good shape. You know, that's an amazing. If we can help make that happen, dude, I think that'd be really cool. So that's great. That's great, man. Well, I'm excited. I'm excited to continue watching the journey. I appreciate you sitting down and
thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Look at this. Watch it continue to grow, and we'll have to do this again in 12 to 24 months, and circle back and see what the new. Dude, every level of business, every level of success has another level of hurdles and problems and headaches and everything that comes with it. So I'm excited to hear what the next level of success and next level of tweaks that it needed as you guys hit that next level in business. So cool, man. Proud of you. Congratulations. Appreciate you being here.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Hey, I hope you guys got a ton of value out of that. Make sure you go to RIGWA Bulls. There's a great gift. Go and buy some stuff. And I don't get anything from it. I just love to support other entrepreneurs, especially on their journey of growth and scaling and all the other good stuff and pain points that we all go through as well. So connect with him on social media. We'll put all of his contact information in the show notes here. And do me a favor, like the episode, give me your biggest takeaway in the comment section below. Share this with somebody else who would get some good value out of it. If you know somebody who's a rock star entrepreneur that I should be interviewing, definitely share them with me or make an introduction if you would. I'd love for them to come to Charleston, sit down, grab some coffee, and talk business and talk life. So hopefully you got some good value out of it. Appreciate you guys being here. See you on the next episode of Spilling the Beans.